Okay, we've got section 3.3 found on page 98 in your textbook. And here we're talking about equivalent equations. Okay, equivalent equations. So two equations are equivalent equations if they have the same solutions. The addition and subtraction properties of equality can be used to write equivalent equations. So this is how we're going to solve one-step equations through addition or subtraction. And sometimes it sounds a little wordy and confusing, but once we do a couple of them, you'll remember how to do this. So it says adding the same number to each side of an equation produces an equivalent equation. So if A equals B, so these are equal sides of an equation, then A plus C equals B plus C, and all they did there was add C to each side of the equation. Same thing goes with subtraction. Subtracting the same number from each side of an equation produces an equivalent equation. If A equals B again, then A minus C equals B minus C. Just subtracting the same number from the equation on each side. So let's look at an example here or two. It says solve x minus 5 equals negative 1. Well, to solve an equation, what we have to do is isolate the variable, which means get the variable all by itself. So what do we have with the variable right now? This subtracting 5, or this minus 5. We want to get rid of this minus 5. What do? We add 5 to both sides. If we add 5 to both sides, then we have x minus 5 plus 5. Minus 5 plus 5, that's going to cancel out with just a 0, and we're left with just x. On this side, we have negative 1 plus 5, which following our sign rules we know is 4. X equals 4. Now we can check our equation by going back up here and saying 4 minus 5 equals negative 1. Yes, 4 minus 5 does equal negative 1, so the answer is 4. Now you might be thinking to yourself, I could just do that in my head. Please follow the steps, as these don't stay this simple. We're just learning the process right now, and doing it in your head doesn't work out well for too long. Solve this one. Z plus 3 halves equals 1 half. Well, what do we want to get Z all by itself. We were adding 3 halves. We need to neutralize that, get that out of there. So we're going to subtract 3 halves. We're going to do the inverse of this. So we subtract 3 halves from both sides, and that will Z plus 3 halves minus 3 halves. That will cancel out this, leaving us with just Z. And 1 half minus 3 halves equals a negative 2 halves, which is a negative 1. Z equals negative 1. So that's how we do those. If we were adding, we subtract from both sides. If we were subtracting, we add to both sides. Here are 3 for you to do on your own. Okay, so for number 1, P minus 5 equals negative 2. We want to get rid of this minus 5. So we add 5 to both sides, always to both sides, because we have to keep this an equivalent equation. Add 5 to both sides. P minus 5 plus 5, these cancel each other out, just leaving us with P. Negative 2 plus 5 will give us different sign, subtract. Keep the sign of the larger absolute value, so P equals 3. Go back up to the original. 3 minus 5 equals negative 2. Yes, so we are correct. Number 2, W plus 13 and 2/10 equals 10 and 4/10. Well, we were adding this. I want to get W by itself, so I subtract 13.2. I have to do that to both sides. Well, these cancel out, leaving us with W. And here, I cannot subtract these numbers as they are written. So off to the side, I'll do 13.2, 10.4. I can subtract them like this. I need that larger number part on top. And I get 2.8. So I put 2.8 over here, but now I have to follow my sign rules. I was combining these two numbers. The negative had the larger absolute value. So negative 2.8. W equals negative 2.8. And then finally, they like to throw a fraction in here for us. X minus 5/6 equals negative 1/6. So I want to get x by itself. I was subtracting 5/6, so I add 5/6. I add 0.56. Nice of them to give us common denominators there. What kind people they are. I'll have to remember them on my Christmas card list. So negative 5/6, positive 5/6, those cancel out, leaving us with just x on this side. And then negative 1/6, positive 5/6, different sign subtract. So 4/6. And I'm going to keep it positive because the positive had the larger number part. This, of course, could be simplified, dividing top and bottom by 2 to get 2/3. X equals 2/3. Okay, well, now you should be able to go over and do journal page 56, which is the practice 3.3. Have an awesome night. See you.